Imagine being falsely arrested just because someone judged you unfairly. This is exactly what happened to Senator Camila Hayes, a respected state leader, during what should have been a routine day. After visiting her mother and shopping at the mall, Camila was loading groceries into her car when Officer Janice Salazar spotted her. Mistaking Camila's actions as suspicious, Janice, a strict cop known for making snap judgments, confronted her with an aggressive tone. Despite Camila calmly explaining her situation and presenting her ID, Janice dismissed her credentials and arrested her without any valid reason. At the station, Lieutenant Jordan Pierce uncovered the truth. Camila had been unfairly targeted based on prejudice and assumptions. Pierce reprimanded Janice for her abuse of power, suspending her pending an investigation. In the end, justice prevailed, but the incident served as a powerful reminder of the dangers of bias and the importance of accountability. Stay tuned to explore how this story unfolded and the vital lessons it teaches us about fairness and justice. Senator Camila Hayes is a well-respected state leader known for her dedication to serving her community. On what should have been a routine day, Camila had just finished visiting her mother and decided to stop by the mall to pick up a few supplies. She strolled through the parking lot, carrying her groceries and heading toward her car, ready to wrap up her day. Meanwhile, Officer Janice Salazar, a seasoned cop with a reputation for being overly strict, was patrolling her usual route. Janice was known for her tendency to make snap judgments, and today was no different. As she drove through the mostly deserted parking lot, she noticed Camila, a black woman, well-dressed and focused on her car. From her vantage point, something about the scene struck her as off. "What's she up to?" Janice muttered under her breath, parking her cruiser. Her instincts told her something wasn't right, though there was no real evidence to support her suspicion. With her hand resting near her belt, she stepped out of her vehicle and marched toward Camila, her demeanor firm and unyielding. As Camila carefully loaded her groceries into her car, she suddenly heard a sharp voice. "Excuse me, ma'am," Janice called out. Startled, Camila turned around to see the officer approaching her, her expression stern. "Is there a problem, officer?" Camila asked calmly, though she felt uneasy under Janice's scrutinizing gaze. "What are you doing here?" Janice demanded, her tone harsh. Camila blinked in confusion, replying, "I'm loading my groceries into my car. Is that a problem?" But Janice wasn't convinced. In her mind, something about Camila being in that parking lot didn't sit right, and her suspicion began to cloud her judgment. This moment set the stage for a confrontation rooted in assumption and prejudice, one that would soon spiral out of control. Janice approached Camila with a firm, almost confrontational tone. "ID, please," she demanded without offering any explanation. Camila, surprised by the sudden aggression, responded calmly, "Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. Is there a reason you're asking for my ID?" But Janice wasn't interested in explanations. Her fingers tapped impatiently on her belt as she repeated, "Just show me your ID, ma'am." "Now." Camila took a deep breath, her heartbeat quickening, but she remained composed. "I'm simply loading groceries into my car," she said firmly, handing over her driver's license. "I don't believe I've done anything to warrant this." Janice snatched the ID and inspected it briefly. "Senator Camila Hayes," she read aloud, her tone laced with skepticism. "Never heard of you," she muttered, pocketing the ID as if it were evidence. Camila, still calm but growing frustrated, replied, "I'm a state senator. I represent District 12. Is there something wrong, officer?" Ignoring her, Janice folded her arms and said dismissively, "You look suspicious, and I'll decide if something's wrong." Camila stared in disbelief, trying to maintain her composure. "Officer, this is a public parking lot. I have the right to be here." But Janice was unmoved. "You can explain that at the station," she said coldly, grabbing Camila's arm. As Janice led Camila to the back of her police cruiser, the scene turned surreal. A well-dressed senator, handcuffed and visibly dignified, was being treated like a common criminal. Bystanders in the parking lot watched with confusion and unease. Some whispered among themselves, wondering what could have led to such an arrest. Others filmed the incident on their phones, capturing the image of a composed woman being placed in the back of a police car. Camila sat silently in the cruiser, her face calm but her mind racing. She knew she had done nothing wrong, and yet she found herself in handcuffs, the victim of an officer's baseless assumptions. The tension was palpable, and the injustice of the moment could not be ignored. At the police station, Camila sat in a stark, cold room, waiting. Her calm demeanor belied the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. After a short while, the door opened, and Lieutenant Jordan Pierce entered. A tall man with a firm yet approachable presence, Pierce had been alerted to the unusual arrest. "Senator Hayes," he began, extending a hand. "I'm Lieutenant Jordan Pierce. I apologize for the inconvenience. Can you tell me what happened?" Camila shook his hand and replied calmly, "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'd like to understand why I was arrested while simply loading groceries into my car." Pierce frowned as he flipped through the hastily written report filed by Officer Janice Salazar. His expression darkened as he read. "Suspicious activity in a parking lot," he murmured, almost incredulously. At that moment, Janice burst into the room, her confidence evident. "Lieutenant, I have her ID here. She was acting suspiciously," she said, holding up Camila's license. Pierce's gaze shifted to Janice, his tone turning cold. "Officer Salazar, are you aware of who you've arrested?" Janice blinked, caught off guard. "Who?" she asked, her earlier confidence faltering. Pierce set the report down, his voice firm. "This is Senator Camila Hayes, one of the most respected leaders in our state. Did you even verify her credentials before bringing her here?" Janice's face turned pale. I didn't realize. She looked suspicious, so I—" Pierce cut her off, his tone sharper now. "You acted on assumptions, officer. You arrested someone without valid grounds. This is harassment, plain and simple." Camila stood, her voice calm but unwavering. "Lieutenant, I'm willing to move past this, but I deserve an explanation. Officer Salazar, what exactly made you believe I was a threat?" Janice shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Camila's gaze. I thought you were someone else," she mumbled, her confidence shattered. Pierce shook his head, disappointment evident. "Officer Salazar, your actions today have embarrassed this department and violated the trust we're supposed to uphold. I have no choice but to suspend you, pending a full investigation." Janice's face flushed with humiliation as the weight of her actions sank in. Outside the room, officers whispered as word of the incident spread. As Camila left the station, her dignity intact, Janice sat alone, her badge confiscated and her career hanging by a thread. Justice had been served, and the lesson was clear. Prejudice and misuse of power would not be tolerated. The consequences of Janice's actions were swift and severe. Her reputation as a seasoned officer was shattered in an instant, and her career was left hanging by a thread. Suspension and an impending investigation loomed over her, a direct result of her poor judgment and misuse of power. Meanwhile, Senator Camila Hayes walked away from the ordeal with her dignity intact. Her calm and composed response throughout the incident highlighted the power of standing up to injustice with grace. She didn't let the unfair treatment define her, but instead turned it into a moment that exposed a deeper issue. This story serves as a powerful reminder that prejudice and the misuse of authority can have far-reaching consequences. Those in positions of power must be held accountable to maintain public trust. In the end, justice prevailed, but it's a stark example of why fairness and accountability must always guide our actions, no matter the circumstances. This story reminds us of a vital lesson. Fairness and accountability must always guide our actions, especially for those in positions of power. Senator Camila Hayes' experience is a powerful example of how prejudice and assumptions can lead to injustice, and how standing up for what's right can bring about accountability. Officer Janice Salazar acted on bias, misusing her authority and ultimately facing the consequences of her actions. On the other hand, Senator Hayes' calm and composed response serves as a reminder that dignity and resilience can be the strongest tools in confronting unfair treatment. Now, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this story? How do you think we can address prejudice and ensure accountability for those in power? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to start a conversation. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you help us share impactful stories that spark important discussions and inspire change. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more stories that remind us of the importance of justice and fairness in our world.